Welcome to another episode of Smiling Again. Today I have with me a very special guest, and his name is Gareth Gailey. Gareth is a running coach, and he coaches recreational runners. And the reason I'm so excited about this particular call is because for those of you who have been following my story on the Blossom account, you will see that running has been a huge part of my healing journey. And I hope through this conversation today with Gareth, with his expertise as a coach, we'll be able to uncover some of the reasons why running has helped me so much. I have my ideas, and I'm looking forward to chatting it through with Gareth. So Gareth, welcome to the show today.
Thanks for having me.
Well, it's lovely to have you here. Thank you for taking the time. Gareth, would you like to start by just sharing a little bit about your story so people have a better understanding of who you are and how you got started coaching and why you coach?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so primarily I got into coaching. I've always been a runner. I was working it out the other day. I did my first half marathon. I've always told people I was 14, but it turns out I was 30, and I run constantly throughout my life. My main career involved a lot of training and providing training. And then in later life, when we were looking, my wife and I, to sort of start a family, it seemed to be a good thing for me to marry the two together so I could have a business of my own that was flexible, so I could include childcare in that. I could grow it and shrink it to suit me. So that happened a few years back. I started taking it a lot more seriously. I've done running coaching, but then this became as a business. And then the area we're kind of talking about today, the mental health aspect, has always been something that's been really interesting to me. I've had my own issues with my own mental health, which we'll probably get back onto later. But yeah, it was more that I fell into it, if I was being a bit perfectly honest. I was going to give a little talk on sports psychology. And then in my research on that, found a lot of interesting data on obviously how exercise is beneficial for mental health and well-being. And from there, a friend suggested I join the England Athletics Mental Health Ambassadors Programme, which the idea being at the time was that there'd be a register for people to find running clubs, knowing that there'd be somebody there who had either experienced mental health issues themselves or were in that kind of area in sort of terms of treatment. So just knowing that you would get a sympathetic and understanding ear in what it can be quite an intimidating environment to join. So that kickstarted that. And then I thought, oh, my Monday nights are quite free because most of my runners were doing long stuff at the weekend. So let's put a little group on and see if there's any interest. And it was coming up to the annual kind of time to talk kind of initiatives that England Athletics put groups on. So I put a few feelers out. And then we kind of released the monster, really. We found we'd accidentally kind of tapped into quite a big well of interest. I was getting messages from people I knew already opening up about their own mental health experiences. We were offers of sponsorship. It just became very quickly, it became something a lot bigger than I'd anticipated. And I'm pretty much one of those that if something like that comes along, you just run with it, no pun intended, and just see where it takes us. And from there, what was going to be a running group on a quiet night has grown into a small community project. We're aiming for charity status, and we've grown into other disciplines. Just before lockdown, we had started walking football groups as well as walking and running groups and that kind of thing. So that became Team Together, which, like I say, is growing into a charity. I'm the founder and chairman for my sins. And then from it, that offers not only the opportunity for people to take part in sporting events that are free, we also have a little kind of clothing and trainer bank. So if basically we're trying to take away any obstacle that prevents anybody taking part, be that financial, equipment wise, emotional, mental. We're just taking away all those hurdles.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Now, when I ran with you, I've only run with you the once. And I stumbled across you. It was a Sunday.
Yeah.
And it was probably 3 years ago. So it was in my early days of running. And I was looking for a way to increase the distance on my run. And you had coordinated a run from one location to another. So I met up with your group at a Tesco,
right.
not too far from my house. Mm-hmm. And then from that Tesco's, we ran to another location, which was Wivenhoe. And then we ran a bit further to do, I can't remember if it was a 10K race or a 5K race. Mm-hmm. All I remember.
It was that day, was it? Yes.
Yes. And I remember the reason why I was plotting in my head, okay, this is a way that I can show on my Garmin that I have run 13 miles.
Yeah.
By the time I did all of that and got back home, that was going to be the longest distance I ever did. And I didn't have the confidence to do all that distance in one go, but I thought we'll have rests in between. So I can do that. I can do that with a rest. So I met some wonderful people and we set off and we did everything. And it was on the way home that I was running with you.
Yeah.
And that's where we met. And there are things that you said to me in that, I don't even know how far it was. It was probably about 3.5 miles, 3.5 miles from Wivenhoe to the Tesco. And in that period of time, in that distance, you said some things to me, and I've never shared this with you yet, Gareth, but you changed my life.
Okay.
You did. Because it had such a profound effect, and it's all related to mindset.
Yeah.
Mindset and how I held my body, which was then linked to mindset and how I was feeling about myself. So this is what I want to talk with you about today, and then we can expand on some of these things. So first thing I want to say is, everybody, Gareth said something to me earlier before we started talking, and he said he's okay with putting everything out there.
It's quite an open book, I think it's fair to say. Yeah.
So, and I think that's why I love running, is that somehow when you're running, it feels a little bit safer to put things out there. I don't know why.
Well, there's a few things going on, isn't there? There's, as we'll probably like to say in more detail, there's all the lovely chemicals start to flow around, so you're in a good mood. There's also something about running is that you never have to look anybody in the eye, because the person you're chatting away to is next to you.
Yeah.
And I think that actually makes it quite easier, because you can be quite close to somebody and it's quite an intimate conversation you can have, but also there's this natural kind of distancing, so you can be very honest and open. And if you're running in a group and it gets all a bit too much, you can just accelerate or slow down and lose that person for a little while. So I do think it does have that environment does kind of encourage you to be a bit more open. I mean, in my case, it's just I love talking, so it's a different dynamic there.
Well, and in my case, I didn't talk at all because
probably.
Yeah, I lost my husband to alcoholism, and alcoholism is an illness where people just don't talk about it. They keep it all a secret. They keep it inside because of shame and guilt. And running has helped me to open up. And I always say to everyone now, a few years later, with every word we heal, and with every word you speak, you start to let go of all of those things that you're holding tight inside. So definitely running has been a catalyst for getting that conversation started. Definitely.
Yeah.
So when we were running together, I was struggling because I was at the longest distance that I'd ever done. My legs felt like jelly. I had no confidence that I could get back. There's a couple things that you said to me. The first thing that you said was, when I was walking, you said, walk purposely.
Yeah.
Walk with purpose.
Yep.
And you know what, Gareth? I had no idea what you meant at the time. So help people understand what at the time. I mean, I understand now.
Walking with purpose. So the idea is that there is nothing wrong with walking during your run. It's like if you were to take the scenario, you're in a race. If you go to a water station, you will stop and you'll take on water. So your training, to me, is all about replicating what you need to be doing when you're in an event. And that includes just allowing yourself moments to actually, take a breath. Because at the end of the day, if you spend 20 seconds recomposing yourself, you'll get those 20 seconds back much further down the line. All right, so walking with purpose serves two purposes. There's the physical, but the mental side of it is that you're still involved in your run. It's very easy to just start stumbling and meandering your way back home. If you walk with purpose, you're still in the hunt, you're still in the race, and then it's a lot easier step to go back into running. And it keeps the mind involved because it's very easy to switch off. And then you're having that battle of, I've got to get going. And you're getting going both mentally and physically. Where if you're walking with purpose and you're keeping that purpose, then, like I say, it's just moving forward.
Yeah,
Stay in the game.
Absolutely. And when you said that to me, I really didn't quite know what you meant. But now those words come up all the time for me, and not just when I'm running. They come up in other things that I do, because it's taught me the importance of mindset and the things that I'm thinking about and how I talk to myself. So when I was with you, I was beating myself up as like, why can't I be like, Claire or whoever it was that was on the same run, that they're able to just keep going. They have this determination and stamina. And I just wanted to quit all the time. So I was just mentally beating myself up. But walk with purpose, I get you thinking of it differently, doesn't it?
Yeah. And that's the thing I'm always saying to people, and this is the thing here, is that if you're in a group, it's very easy to feed off that group in either a positive and a negative way. There's a spiraling effect. You can feed off the group and it will lift you, or it's very easy, and it depends on what your mindset is really, and kind of your mood before you start, is that it's very easy to start looking around and comparing. But the thing I always say is, why are you comparing yourself to somebody who is just another recreational runner? If you really want to beat yourself up, why don't you look at the professionals? Because they are much, much better than you. So you pick your target, don't you? You know what I mean? But you're now thinking, but that's a ridiculous comparison because they are in a different environment. So, but why are you comparing yourself to that other person? It's totally irrelevant. It's about what you're doing. And the reason I was talking to you so much is actually it disguises the fact that we're still running, we're still moving. It eats up a bit of ground. But it is that picture of, what are you telling yourself? What the thing I often say to people, if we're having a group run, and it's sometimes, especially when we get into the very long distances, everybody's feeling it a little bit. And if I feel everybody's moaning or getting a bit negative, I'll say, right, say something positive about this run now. And usually you're met with silence, to be honest, but it stops the mindset, because then what you're also saying to that person is you're not giving yourself the best chance here. And then I will go with something. Because, I've been out on runs and turned around to people when we've been out in the countryside, and it's like, look at that view. And you realize they're all looking at their feet. And it's like, if you're not trying to enjoy this, you're not going to enjoy it. You've got to take these simple pleasures.
Yeah, absolutely. And I must say, I do that on every run. I take in the sounds, I take in the sights. I'm the one that always stops to take the photo, because that's more important to me, to take it all in and the feeling that I get from it, than it is how long I take to finish that run.
Absolutely,
I don't really, there's times when I don't want to go fast, but so that's why it's like run with purpose as well. What's my outcome for this run? But most of the time it's just, look at those flowers, look at that sun. It's beautiful.
My counter argument to that is a purpose.
Yes,
I
absolutely.
always say that one of the phrases I use quite a lot is, every run you do should have a point. And because I'm a coach, people think that means some kind of performance goal, and a lot of the time it does. But also those runs where you just go out and you're in a little dream state and you're admiring a sunset or you're taking a photo and you actually just relax and reconnect a little bit, that has a point, because that will benefit the rest of those other runs that are a little bit harder, a little bit more structured, a little bit more serious.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is really the purpose behind most of my running, is just for me to feel a bit more grounded, to reconnect with myself, and to just breathe in.
Absolutely. Know what you
The
want out of it. That's the thing. If you
yeah,
know what you want out of it before it, and like I say, it doesn't have to be performance. It can be a more spiritual kind of experience. And then
exactly.
go looking for it. It's people who want to be brilliant runners but spend their time taking photos and doing this, and then can't understand why they're not getting both of the best worlds, because it can't be done.
Yeah, wonderful. So the other thing that you said to me that day, which has also stuck with me, and I think about it on every single run now, is think about how you're using your energy. Use your energy wisely.
Yeah.
Because it was at that stage when I was running, I was really hunched over and my posture was awful. And I think that was the beginning of me realizing that I was really hunched, and I
Yeah.
started to straighten up and use my body differently. So
Sure.
do you want to talk us through, what were
Well,
you
again,
trying to tell me at the time?
this is quite interesting, where it shows that, like you said, setting your mindset. These both apply to the efficiency of running, but also a little bit of efficiency in life. Without
Absolutely.
getting all rules in, they do cross over. So, from an efficiency point, you need good posture. You need a little bit of height, because you need to lift your hips so your legs can. We can get all to that technical stuff. But the other side of that is again, it's just basic body language. And sometimes when times are tough, and that's what I was saying, you're not going to have great amounts of energy, so you need to use it wisely and efficiently. And that's where actually the good posture and that kind of thing comes in, because you're not going to suddenly have, no amount of positive thinking is going to put energy you don't have back into your legs, and strength you don't have. Okay. But what you do have, you can harness. And that's what I was trying to say to you there, that what we need to do is just take a few deep breaths, lift ourselves up. And it's almost a bit like, if you can't make it, fake it. If a great example a few years back, slight tangent, the London Marathon. And you look at all these professional runners, and they look as graceful as you can imagine. If you've ever been to the London Marathon, they run past you and you can't even hear their feet. It's just, it's a beautiful thing. And I was watching it on TV, and the guys finished. And there was quite a bit of a race at the end. It was quite close. And then Richard Branson tried to turn one of the runners around to face some photographers. And the guy's legs were so solid, he nearly toppled over. It was like he was on stilts. And that's quite a good lesson, because if you'd watched him 2 minutes earlier, you would have assumed, as we often do, is, they make it look so easy. The guy was in massive amounts of pain. What they're very professional athletes are very good at is maintaining their structure of their run under huge amounts of duress. And that's what we're kind of trying to do on a small level with us. Is, like I say, take the energy you do have and focus it forward. And it also, with, like we were saying, with how we talk to ourselves, let's make that positive. It's a given that you're tired at this point. That was kind of what we were trying to achieve. You were trying to challenge yourself. And sometimes that's what we need to prepare for. It's not about being massively positive about everything and going for it and saying, yeah, it's all bells and whistles. Sometimes you just have to, part of your preparation is accept that things go wrong. What will I do when it does?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think in that moment, and since then, when I think about, using my energy wisely, it takes me back to observing how I'm holding my body.
Yeah.
So, because quite often we can be on autopilot and we don't really notice how we're holding ourselves.
Sure.
So I think about that all the time now. And it impacts my mental health constantly, how I sit, how I hold myself.
Yeah.
Because I used to be so tired all the time. And I convinced myself I was so tired, and that carried through in my running. And then the running helped me change that mindset. get me upright, and I'm feeling stronger, I'm feeling happier, I'm no longer slouched. It just changed everything just with that idea of using my energy wisely. Because if I'm going to use my energy wisely while I'm running, why wouldn't I do that all the time? So I
Yes.
do it
Yeah,
all the
absolutely.
time now.
Yeah.
So that's why you've helped change my whole life, Gareth, with those two
Oh,
little things that you said.
who knew? Who knew? But it
Oh,
is the kind of, I mean, that's the kind of idea of the conversations I do have while we're out running in those groups.
mm,
Is I'm a great believer in planting seeds. Um, and sometimes when you're building a relationship with your clients, it can be a bit tricky because they think they come to you looking for you to have all the solutions and all the answers.
mhm,
And 9 times out of 10, they know what they need to be told, and it's almost an affirmation of what they're believing. There's a little bit of obviously sort of changing of tack in certain ways with their training and that kind of thing, but getting the mindset right with people, and it's just like I say, I'm not one to say you need to do this, and this will happen, A equals B, and so on. But I like to plant seeds, and a lot of my clients, and I have little repetitive phrases, have said to me that if they're in a race and they're just finishing the last mile, it's like all I could hear was your voice.
yeah.
And I was like, yeah, my work is done here. And it's like I say, it's because, like I say, I think people see coaching as being taught, where it's actually much more collaborative.
Mhm,
And a lot of time, it's actually helping people discover what is already there, and sometimes what they already know,
mhm,
um, and just corralling it all a little bit.
absolutely.
So,
And I think,
so it makes me very happy, because when you said, oh, things you say, the thing is, I talk so much and so often that I often can't remember what I've said at all. So it's like, okay, where's this going? But I do remember having that conversation with you. I just, and then when you said about it being, we took part in that little race, it all, yeah, all tied up.
mhm. And I think, you've said something a moment ago that I think is really important for people to hear. And it doesn't just relate to running, it relates to life.
Yeah,
And it relates to this entire healing journey that I've been on. I call it a healing journey. People talk about having to work on yourself. I mean,
yes,
that is what it is, but I like to phrase it differently. I'd rather go on a really fun healing journey. If I'm going to change myself, my mindset, my body, the outcomes of my life, I want to have fun doing it. So that's why I call
absolutely.
it a healing journey, because that sounds much more fun. But
Mm-hmm.
fundamentally, I think that the key takeaway is somebody, you've just said you're not going to come with the answers to tell people what to do. They already know it's inside, and
Yeah.
you just have to uncover it, don't you?
Well, it is, yeah, and it's getting people thinking about themselves a bit more, and sometimes in different ways, because the other aspect of dealing with people with mental health uh, issues is that naturally they're usually their self-esteem is quite low, so it's
Mhm,
giving them a sense of worth, and it's just changing, because you need people to be self-critical to improve. If by nature that doesn't being self-critical doesn't mean being self-destructive. I don't need my wife to confirm that I have 101 faults. I'm I'm not perfect, but being aware of them, and and just knowing yourself as a person, I think is a big part of sort of improving and learning. And what you were saying about your journey is, I entirely agree with you. I think a lot of people, to me, life is about just a series of experiences, emotions, and learning about the human condition, if you like. But I'm aware that some people see it as almost like a box ticking exercise of things to achieve, um, where I'm far more, let's see where this experience takes us and what do we learn. There's quite an interesting phrase that's being bandied around in professional sport, is we don't lose, we learn, which I think is a great attitude, because obviously they are goal orientated. They've not reached their goal, but what have they learned in the bigger picture? And is that a good thing? And sometimes unfortunately, bad experiences make you better people in the long run.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And we're always learning and
Absolutely.
always improving, always growing.
Yes. Yeah. I think you need to stay true to yourself. But yeah, if I was the same person at 18 as I am at 50, I'd be hugely disappointed in myself.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause
Yeah.
that's the whole point of these experiences. They should open your eyes to other possibilities and other ways of thinking. Um, and one of the things I'm always a bit wary of is, am I just sort of a bit of a sponge, or do I just sway with the wind? Because I'll hear lots of stuff and that's really amazing, I'll use that in my work. But am I, when I was a bit younger, I was always worried I was a bit more just easily influenced. Then I realized I was just being open.
Yeah.
Because I'm quite happy to reject stuff I don't believe in as nonsense, but I'll always give it consideration. I think that's all you can do, isn't it?
Sounds like a healthy approach to things.
Yeah.
So if anyone who's listening right now who has maybe tried running, but they were like me in the early days, where it was a lot of start and stop, lack of consistency, lack of confidence, what would you say to someone in terms of how running can help with your mental health challenges?
I think the biggest thing is just accept, and this, see, I'm a great believer that we sometimes, in the idea of being positive, dress things up as they aren't, and you have to accept that there's hard bits. It is hard when you first get running, and I'll always appreciate this, but it's not impossible. And especially the thing I always say with our guys who have, like I say, the MH issues, is that you're not immune to the workings of biology. Your body will do exactly the same as everybody else's if you do the right things. So although you may not feel confident in yourself, there's a whole chemical system working in there, whether you want it to or not, which will help you develop. And then it's working on those positives, enjoying the moment. I think probably the biggest thing is to remember why you're doing it. If you're getting into, say, exercise because of all those brilliant benefits that it offers to your mental health, then very quickly, and I see it quite often, people veer off into performance goals, and they want to do this, and they want to do that event, and they want to be faster, and they this, which is fine, but don't lose sight of your original reason for doing it. Don't let it become yet another thing that you can be using to beat yourself up on. Have clear targets and goals, because the phrase I've been using is disappointment is the area between expectation and reality. So what that means is, if you have a goal, then make it realistic. Be aggressive with it if you want. Go after it at 100 miles an hour, but it needs to be realistic, because you just set yourself up for a fall. But most of all, just enjoy what you're doing. Let the good things from exercise come to you. Don't go hunting it down. And the other thing I'm really always trying to emphasize is that it's never a quick fix. You will feel better, like in the short term. You will have those bursts of serotonin and all the other chemicals flowing around you that make you feel grand. But it's not life-changing overnight. And to expect, I think some people hope this is, because there's been a lot of talk about this, people are seeing it as the next best thing to come along and be the thing that puts things right. And it will, but it'll only be part of the solution.
Absolutely. I can relate to that so much. I shared a photo a couple of weeks ago. It was a photo of me running in 2018. I did not look good. I did not look like I was enjoying myself at all. And then compared side by side with another photo of me just taken a couple of weeks ago, doing a sunrise run in the park with the sunrise behind me. My body is completely different in shape. But the thing that I love the most about that photo is the look on my face.
Yeah.
I've got my arms wide open. And that,
the two different energies, huh?
It's just completely two different energies. And it's the belief in myself on the inside.
Yes.
And that's why I'm glowing. It's that's glowing.
Because that's the thing, is that although it's the outside view, it's very much the billboard poster of what's going on inside, isn't it?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
call it that feeling on the inside.
yeah.
That's why I run, is for that feeling on the inside. But it's taken me since 2018 to have it, to gain that feeling. And so now, I can put my arms wide open like that and
Yeah.
feel that instantly anywhere. It doesn't matter what I'm doing. It doesn't have to be running. I get that feeling. And that's all come from running. But it's taken me a few years.
Yeah.
Not quick fix.
There's no quick fix. And also, because the thing about it is it's the same as anything. If you're trying a new skill and it's physically demanding, it's it's not the most pleasurable experience. There are moments where you're going to feel tired. But again, tiredness is the reward for your efforts, isn't it? That's the way to look at it. It's easy to go, I'm just tired after my runs. It's like, I wanted to push myself hard today and I'm tired, so therefore I must have. So I've achieved my goal. There's two different ways of looking at that.
Absolutely. Well, what I like to do on these calls, Gareth, is I always end with gratitude. And I'm extremely grateful that we're here having this conversation today. And I'm even more grateful that we had that conversation way back when. And you shared those things with me, because it really has impacted how I've stuck with running, and it's just spilled into the rest of my life. So I'm extremely grateful for that. What's something that you're grateful for?
Oh, having been personally, I found my 20s and 30s really difficult. And then life has kind of got a lot easier and a lot better in the last few years. It's been amazing. I'm really grateful for those hard years. I'm always saying, if you like the person you are and you like where you are, then everything that's happened to you has contributed to that. We post experiences in the good and bad, positive and negative columns. Well, I don't think they do. I just think they contribute to the whole. So I'm really, at the moment, I'm in a place where I'm really thankful for what I've got around me, but also what brought me here, because the things I have now, would I have appreciated them as much as I do without the experiences that I had? And I think that's the way I look at life in general. I don't write off things as good as bad. They just are what has been, and what have I learned from them. And then if I'm not learning from them, that's a negative. But so in general, I'm actually really, really happy. I've quite a simple taste in life. It doesn't actually take a lot to please me, to be honest. I'm not like a big sort of one for owning lots of stuff. I don't need a lot of things around me. It's very much the emotional. So I've got all that, and so yeah, I'm really grateful for that.
Oh, that's absolutely wonderful.
And I know for a fact that if my wife hears this, she'll take all of the all of the kudos for that.
I'll tag Ruth in. Yeah, I'll let her know.
That's it. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, well, it's been absolutely.
Also, I'm in this is where your experiences. I'm in a position where not only do I appreciate what I have, but I'm in a position where I can look around and be positive about it and open about it and say those kind of things. And that's the biggest thing I've learned, is that actually, if you open yourself up and you're putting stuff out like the conversations we had, it comes back.
Yeah.
Having zipped around wherever we've influenced between the two of us.
Wow. That's wonderful. Putting it all out there. That's a wonderful note to end on. And I always, suggest that if anyone listening can take away one thing from this conversation, I would say that putting it all out there, opening up, is incredibly important to your healing, and how running has made that easier for me.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that you said is that people have the answers inside themselves. They just need to trust that they're there and become more aware of themselves. And I think running helps with that and helps create that positive mindset.
Yeah.
So many things. There's not just one thing. So I guess the one thing is get your trainers on and go for a run and
Absolutely.
just see how it feels. Take it all in.
Mm-hmm. And do the thing that makes you happy, not whatever. It's a very internal experience, not external. Stop selling to other people. Just sell to yourself.
Absolutely. That's absolutely wonderful. Well, thank you very much for joining us here today,
No,
Gareth.
pleasure.
Um,
Thanks for having me.
for those of you listening, do that one thing. And you can also join the Blossom community and share your experience there, because when you do things together, it's easier together, and we'll be there cheering for you. So share your experiences when you lace up and you go for that run, and tell us how it feels on the inside. And you never know, keep running and you might start smiling again a lot more often. Thank you, Gareth.
No, thank you.